If you're trying to make money on X while working a full-time job, there's 4 things you need to do right now. Back when I started, I struggled to balance my work and my X account, but then I discovered the 4-step method I'm about to share, and everything changed. And it all starts with identifying your priorities, which you can do by listing out everything that helps your account grow. This may look different depending on your niche, but some of these actions include idea generation, research, writing posts, publishing posts, engaging with your audience, and optimizing your profile. Once you have this list, prioritize it using these 2 filters: what makes the biggest impact and what takes the most time. For me, the action at the top of this list is writing posts. I don't want to have to start from zero every time I want to post something because I don't have the time or the energy for that. So I write my posts in advance. And there's a couple ways that I do this. First is that anytime I have an idea, I save it in my drafts. Now sometimes this is a fully fledged post that just springs into my head, and so I write out the whole thing. Other times it's a more broad idea or a concept for a post, so I'll just write down a few general things I'm thinking about, and then I'll write the full post later. The other way I do this is by batching my posts, or in other words, sitting down and writing a bunch of posts at once. For example, on Saturdays, I used to batch all of my posts for the upcoming week. So I'd sit down for an hour or 2 and just crank out 2 to 3 posts for every day. It can also work to batch your posts daily. So this could look like waking up early and writing all your posts for the upcoming day. Or if it works better for you, you could write all of your posts the night before. Now, sometimes I share this tactic and people push back because they want to just fire off a post as soon as they think of it. That's completely fine. I still do that. The point of batching your content is just to make sure you always have something to post. If you go to post something and an idea comes to your head that you want to post instead, there's nothing that says you have to post what you wrote before. I set aside pre-written posts for a brand new idea all the time. Okay, what about engaging with your audience? I like to make sure that at the very least, I engage with my audience after my first post of the day. So usually this happens first thing when I get to the office, but if that's not an option for you, you could try waking up earlier and doing it before you start working. As you make more posts throughout the day, it may be difficult to engage with everyone since you're doing your job, but there are opportunities to find little moments to slip away, like when you're eating lunch or taking a bathroom break. If you're really busy at work, it can also be helpful to schedule your posts. So I like to make my posts about 3 hours apart, but sometimes I'll get distracted or carried away working on something and I'll forget to make a post for like 5 hours. So this is where scheduling comes in handy. You can't do this from the mobile app, but if you log in from the web, you can do it there. Ultimately, everything I've shared so far comes down to habits, discipline, and priorities. Working a full-time job can consume your life, so if you don't establish your priorities, things will quickly fall apart. There's a famous analogy I like to think about that helps me stay on track. So imagine that you've got a jar, some rocks, and some sand. In order to fit everything in the jar, you have to put the rocks in first, and then the sand will fill in the gaps. If you put the sand in first, you will not be able to fit all the rocks because the sand will pool at the bottom. The jar represents your available time, the rocks are the important tasks you need to complete each day, and the sand is the less important ones. If you don't complete those most important tasks first, then the little tasks will take up all your time and you won't get your most important work done. If you want to succeed on X, it has to be one of those big rocks, otherwise your progress will be slow. That being said, it's also important to pace yourself, which I do by setting daily goals. For example, when you're getting monetized, you need to reach 500 verified followers and get 5 million impressions within 3 months. It's a lot easier to reach those big goals if you break them down into smaller goals. So for example, 5 million impressions in 3 months breaks down to around 55,000 impressions per day. And to get 500 verified followers in the same time period, it's around 6 verified followers per day. That helps those goals feel much more achievable than if you just scrambled every single day to get as many impressions and followers as possible. That is a recipe for burnout. Or another example, after I got monetized, I figured out the minimum analytics I needed to get paid, and then I broke those down into daily goals as well. So I know that if I get at least 10,000 total engagements and at least 2,000 total replies, I can safely expect a payout. And in order to achieve those metrics, I need to make around 2 or 3 posts per day. By knowing those numbers, it helps me know exactly how much work I need to do each day and avoid getting burned out. All right, let's talk about another issue. Some people are concerned about what will happen if their boss finds their account. And ultimately, this comes down to what you're writing about. If you're posting content that is unrelated to your job, your boss may see this as a distraction from your actual work. And this is why many people choose to be anonymous. But the fact of the matter is, most bosses probably won't care as long as you get your work done. My coworkers have found both my YouTube channel and my X account, but have not expressed any concern because I do my job. Don't get so consumed by your side hustle that you lose your main source of income. Remember how we just talked about priorities? Your job should be one of those big rocks that goes in the jar first. I am not going to be the person that tells you to burn the boats, quit your job, and go all in on your X account. X monetization is not only extremely volatile, it's also completely unreliable. So be very smart with this. That being said, another way to come at this is to write about your industry or the work you are doing. People often hear about X monetization and get infatuated by the idea of getting paid to tweet. But people have been making money on Twitter long before Elon Musk introduced payouts. Let's say you work in marketing like I do. Obviously, I've chosen a different niche, but I could have chosen to talk about marketing on my X account. If I shared content about how to do marketing, I could build an audience and get paid for the verified engagement on my content. But also, by positioning myself as a marketing expert, I would attract people who are willing to pay for my knowledge, whether through consulting or other means. And this works in any industry, whether it's sales, finance, real estate, or even non-business related topics like gardening, teaching, personal fitness, you name it. If you have a skill, you can build an audience and monetize it just by talking about your experience and what you've learned. And you might even generate more sales for your company, which will make your boss pretty happy. And speaking of additional ways to monetize your X account, if you want to learn more about that, I recommend watching this video here.